Hey, welcome. Let me ask you something. Do you ever just feel completely exhausted? Like you're constantly running on empty in a world that just refuses to hit the brakes? Well, today, we're going to dig into why so many of us feel this way. And you know what? We're going to see what a really ancient command has to say about our very modern problem of burnout.
Seriously, why are we always so tired? It's a question I think almost everyone is asking these days. I mean, we've got all this technology, all these conveniences that are supposed to make life easier, so why do we feel more drained than ever before? What is really going on here?
Okay, so let's call it what it is. We're living in the age of burnout. Our culture has totally sold us on this idea that the nonstop hustle isn't just normal, it's admirable. It's something to be proud of, right? We literally wear our busyness and exhaustion like a badge of honor.
And at the heart of it is this belief: productivity is king, and rest, well, rest is for the weak. We're taught from a young age to just grind, to push ourselves past our limits. And you know what the crazy part is? We actually feel guilty for taking a break. Think about that. But check this out. This quote just completely flips that whole idea on its head. It says, when you refuse to rest, it's not about being dedicated. It's actually about a lack of trust. It reframes our constant hustle away from being about faithfulness and calls it what it might actually be: pride. The feeling that says, it all depends on me. I have to keep going or it all falls apart.
Okay, so with that modern problem of burnout fresh in our minds, let's pivot. Let's look at a really ancient solution. We're going to dive into the original blueprint for a totally different way of living, and we find it all the way back in the book of Exodus.
Here it is, the Fourth Commandment. And listen, this isn't just a gentle suggestion like, hey, you should probably rest sometime. No, this is a direct command from God. It's about building a rhythm into the very fabric of our lives. A rhythm of work, yes, but then intentional rest. 6 days on, 1 day off. That's the pattern.
So what is the Sabbath really? Well, it's way more than just not doing your job for a day. It's about intentionally, on purpose, setting aside time for two things: rest and worship. And this pattern? It's modeled after God's own rhythm in the creation story. So let's break down the key truths here. First off, this wasn't some human invention. This was God's idea. For the people who first heard this, resting wasn't an option. It was a direct act of obedience. And here's the crucial part. It links our physical rest with our spiritual worship. They're tied together. You have to understand, in a world of non-stop labor and even slavery, the idea of everyone stopping, that was absolutely revolutionary.
All right, so that's the foundation. But now the story takes a turn. Let's see how this ancient practice got totally transformed by one single pivotal event in history. This event caused a huge shift in how the followers of Jesus thought about this whole rhythm of rest.
And here's that turning point: the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The whole axis of history tilted on this moment. And get this, he rose from the dead not on the Sabbath, the seventh day, but on Sunday, the first day of the week. For the early Christians, this changed absolutely everything.
So you can see the practice really evolving. On the one hand, you have the Sabbath on Saturday, which was all about remembering God's rest after creation. But on the other hand, you have the Lord's Day on Sunday, where the focus completely shifts to celebrating Jesus' resurrection and the new creation he kicked off.
And we can actually see this happening right in the New Testament. The Apostle John, when he's writing Revelation, casually mentions being in the Spirit on the Lord's Day. This little detail tells us a lot. It shows that by the end of that first century, meeting on Sunday to worship and celebrate was already a done deal. It was an established thing.
Okay, so what's the big deal with this shift? Is this just about swapping Saturday for Sunday? Trading one set of rules for another? Or is there something much, much deeper going on here? Well, the Apostle Paul actually tackles this head-on in his letter to the Romans, and he totally moves the conversation away from just rigid, legalistic rules. He brings it back to personal conviction. He basically says the key isn't which day you observe, but why you're doing it. It's the motivation of your heart, doing it for the Lord. That's what really counts.
And this really gets us to the core teaching point. God built us to need this kind of sacred time, but it's supposed to be an act of devotion, right? Not just another box to check on your to-do list. Jesus come in gives this whole rhythm of rest a brand new meaning. And it's our personal conviction, our own decision to honor it that really aligns our hearts with God.
So yeah, here's the bottom line. The whole principle, All the way from the Old Testament Sabbath to the New Testament Lord's Day, it's all about one thing: pointing our hearts back to God. He's way more interested in a relationship with you than in you just perfectly following a set of rules.
Okay, great. So how in the world do we take this ancient wisdom and actually apply it to our crazy, modern, restless lives? Let's get super practical for a minute.
First things first, we have to completely change the way we think about rest. We've got to stop seeing it as laziness, period, and start seeing it for what it truly is: an act of wise, faithful obedience to the very way we were designed to live and work.
So here are 5 steps you can take to start reclaiming rest. Number 1, actually schedule it. Put it in your calendar like a non-negotiable appointment. 2, prioritize worship. Make gathering with other believers a real priority. 3, audit your time. Seriously, take an honest look at your calendar and see what it says about what you really prioritize. 4, and this one is huge, stop judging other people for how they do it. Focus on your own heart, your own conviction. And finally, number 5, trust God by actually resting. Just stopping is a massive act of faith. It's you declaring, okay, God, you're in control, not me.
You know, a chart like this can be a real wake-up call, can't it? When you actually map out where all your hours go. So much to work, a ton to entertainment, scrolling on our phones, and then you see that tiny sliver left over for intentional rest and worship. Wow, it tells a story. The real question is, what story is your schedule telling?
And that leads us to this really powerful, maybe even uncomfortable thought. Our time, it's the currency of our life, and how we spend it is the clearest, most honest indicator of what we truly value, what we truly worship. Your calendar, it doesn't lie.
So, at the end of the day, this whole idea of the Sabbath, it was never ever meant to be a heavy burden or another rule to make you feel guilty. It was given as a gift of restoration, of peace, and a chance to trust a God who's got it all under control. So the only question left for you and me is, will we receive that gift?